parents and the children could have fun together.
Please board quickly and safely. Our monorail will be departing momentarily.
Welcome to the My DVC Points podcast. Join the conversation as DVC members share their stories, personal preferences, and magical memories. Your reservation is confirmed, your fast passes are booked. Pull up on the yellow strap because our journey into the magic of membership is about to begin.
To infinity and beyond.
Now, here's your host and curator of magical stories, Chad Pennycuff.
Welcome home, neighbors, to episode 293 of the My DVC Points podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at dvcresalemarket.com. And you're going to want to get familiar with their site because today we are talking about factors that people think about when selecting their next home resort. And then we'll come back in and group all of these factors together in 6 types of buyers. And spoiler alert, if we're going to be doing one episode dedicated to each of these 6 buyer types with a resale agent from DVC Resale Market. So get familiar with their site because this is what we're going to be talking about today. So we've got 6 factors that people look at and then 6 combinations of factors to make 6 type of buyers. And let's just go through these 6 factors. Number 1, and this is probably the most prevalent that I see out there, is an emotional connection to the resort. You may have grown up coming to this resort. You may have a family history here. There's just certain resorts that just speak to certain people. For me, Copper Creek speaks to me. Animal Kingdom now speaks to me. It did not at first. Now I totally dig the vibe of that resort, and I absolutely love going there for dinner, going there, taking a quick staycation over there, or just making my wife happy and going to her favorite resort. So people have emotional connections to the resort. That whole welcome home thing, that's not just a bunch of marketing hooey. DVC really hit a deep connection that we have with our home resorts. And a lot of times you'll see people come back in and say, buy where you want to stay. And that's this emotional connection speaking to you. Number 2 on the list, people look at years left on the contract. Because when you buy resale or when you buy direct, the contracts have a definitive end date. Last year, if you bought the new Villas Disneyland Tower, you were getting a full 50 years on the contract. And that made a lot of sense to a lot of us to say, hey, I get all 50. Today, if you buy Riviera, you're going to get around 44, 45 years left on the contract, depending on what your use year is and when you buy. You could be looking at something like Saratoga, which is the oldest of the first extended resorts contracts that has an expiration date around 2053. You could be looking at Animal Kingdom, 2057, Old Key West Extended 2057, or you could be looking at one of those 2042 resorts, which I see dropping like a rock in price these days because there's 17 years left on the contract. So whatever you pay for it, divide by 17, that's your cost per point when you buy the contract. When you start looking at this as well, now that years left on the contract is important because it ties right into number 3, that price per point. And sometimes we're looking at this as, this is what the resale price per point is. Sometimes we're looking at it as price per point per year remaining, which is kind of a combination of the two. We also look at dues on this and what's the historical dues been for this resort. Has this been a very low dues resort like Grand Floridian that's really, really fancy, has a ton of points there, it's a ton of points to stay there per night. So all of the operational expenses get spread out across more points, so it's a lower cost per point. Or are we looking at something like Hilton Head and Vero that have really high dues due to some of the recent hurricane damages and hurricane assessments that are over there? We kind of look at these things and go, hey, this is what it's going to cost me to own this property, not only in cost per point, but in annual dues going forward. Now, I happen to be somebody who's a big fan of number 5 here, which is the predicted resale value when you go to exit the contract. I am always an exit strategy buyer. I don't want to buy something that I know that I'm stuck with and that I can't get out of. So for me, looking at these 2042 resorts now, if I know I'm buying it and I'm going to hold it the average 7 to 8 years that most DVC members hold a contract, when I get ready to sell this thing, it's going to have 9 or 10 years left on it. What's the value going to be? It's not going to be anywhere close to what I paid for it. Whereas if I look at something like Copper Creek that has 43 years left on it and I hold it for 7 years, and I get ready to sell this contract with 36 years left on it, there's a good chance that it's held its value or even gone up in value because DVC keeps raising the price of their contracts. So that's a huge factor that people need to think about is when I'm done with this, what's it actually going to be worth and how easy is it going to be to sell this? And then the final factor, and you'll see this come back in, it's tied back in with that emotional connection, right back into the buy where you want to stay club, is the 11-month booking advantages. Most resorts out there have something special for the owners that really the owners all take up. If you're talking about Aulani, we're talking about the standard view rooms that are really cheap on price, or the insanely cheap hotel rooms at Aulani you can book with DVC points. At Animal Kingdom, you've got people going on both ends of the spectrum. They're going for the high-end club level rooms, and they're going for those awesome point charts over there at the value resorts. If you buy Old Key West, you could have near hospitality house booking at the 11-month window. Sometimes it's just, hey, I want a Saratoga contract just so that I have an 11-month at high demand weekends like Run Disney and everything else. You could be a beach person or you could be a Disneyland person, but you look at your portfolio and go, hey, it might not be a bad idea to own some points in Walt Disney World, so at least I can get something at the 11-month window there. So those are the 6 factors that people look at when we talk about picking your next home resort. Just to review them, you've got number 1, emotional connection. Number 2, years left on the contract. Number 3, price per point. Number 4, dues. Number 5, predicted resale value. And number 6, 11-month booking advantages. So now these factors start to come together in what I consider 6 types of DVC buyers. And here's the really cool thing about this. So the good news is on these 6 types of buyers is you can mix and match and build a portfolio here. You're not locked into one school of thought across your entire portfolio. You can use any of these mindsets as you add on to your portfolio of DVC points. So let's come back in and I'll run through them really quick. So the number 1 focus is the 11-month window, buy where you want to stay mentality, right? That could be the heartfelt deal. It could be the 11-month booking advantage. I want the low points at Aulani. It could be I want a studio at Grand Floridian. It could be any of the little unique things that owners get. It could be I want to book 4th of July and New Year's Eve at Bay Lake Tower Magic Kingdom view rooms. Those things are insanely popular for owners to book at that point in time because you're getting an extra special fireworks show and you've got the closest room to it and the best view from it. At least as far as we know. Poly Tower hasn't opened up yet. It might hang with it, but I really doubt it just due to physical proximity. So anyways, 11-month buy where you want to stay, people. The next category of buyer is somebody who's looking for network points, meaning they don't really care about the 11-month window. They want to shop around and try different resorts out at the 7-month window. So they could be a beach club owner that says, hey, I really don't want to use my beach club points or my Grand Cal points any place other than that. I want to save them for their 11-month window there. But you know what? I do want to try out the other resorts. And in that case, you'll be looking to become a network buyer. A third school of thought here comes back into buy where you wouldn't mind staying. And that's for people that come back in and go, hey, as long as I'm in Walt Disney World, I'm good. I can buy anything in Walt Disney World, and I at least know that I'm going to Walt Disney World, and then I can waitlist something and change my plans if I can't switch at the 7-month window, but at least I'm in and I don't have to worry about it. So that's kind of a combination of buy where you want to stay, but it's also factoring in some other factors like price and dues and other things along those lines. The fourth type of buyer here is called the lowest total cost of ownership. And these are financial buyers that are looking at DVC going, hey, I'm looking at the long haul financial implications of this. So they're really going to put more emphasis on the dues and the years remaining on the contract. DVC does every 6 months a blog article that focuses exclusively on these things. Now, they don't factor exit strategy into it. They assume you're going to hold the contract till expiration date when they create this report. So just keep that in mind. But there's a definite market out there of people who are looking at this going, I want the lowest total cost of ownership. And number 5 focus is, hey, I don't care what it costs me today. I need the lowest dues on an ongoing basis. And those are people that look at Grand Cal, Bay Lake Tower, Grand Floridian with their historically low dues and say, that's where I want to own because it's total cost over time. I can afford the big hit up front. Maybe you got a bonus check in today. Maybe you have some little windfall of money that's allowing you to buy DVC. But then the budget going forward, you don't have that windfall coming in, and you want the lowest total cost of like dues. And it's a total cost of monthly stuff going forward from this. And the sixth type of buyer is looking at this and they're going, I need the lowest upfront cost. Hey, DVC is great, all of this other fun stuff. I need help getting my foot in the door. And those are people that are buying the Hilton Heads and the Veros down in the $50 and $60 a point ranges to come back in and snag a deal on that, knowing that their dues are going to be higher going forward. But hey, they at least got their family into DVC today, and that's how they can afford this. So just to recap here, you've got the buy where you want to stay people. You've got the network points, which is the exact opposite of that, where I'm looking to come back in and buy some points that I can use just for the 7-month advantage. You've got the middle ground between the two of buy where you wouldn't mind staying. And then you've got the financial group of people that are looking for total cost of ownership over time. The people who are looking for the total cost of ownership right now at buy-in. I'll worry about the dues later. And then you've got the people that are looking for the lowest dues cost over time. These are all different types of buyers that are out there. And I'm creating this episode today because I see a lot of comments and a lot of thinking in our Facebook groups and other things that go, why would somebody buy Vero? Well, it's very simple. They're looking for initial upfront purchase cost. That's the type of buyer they are. That's their mentality and their mindset. And there's no wrong answers on any of these. The secret to buying DVC and finding a great contract that's for you is one that closely aligns with your values. So whatever it is that you value in this list, whether it's pay me now, pay me later, pay over time, whatever speaks to you and makes you feel comfortable with this decision is the type of buyer you are. And you should align that with the type of contract that you buy. And our friends over at DVC Resale Market are experts in asking all of the questions to help you get to these answers. I'm just creating a show on it because I haven't seen any content out here that's talking about the various different types of buyers that are out there in the market. But I see a lot of people questioning, like, why would you buy this? Or I could never, in my wildest dreams, look at paying that price for Grand Cal. Well, if you want the 11-month advantage to book there and go to Grand Cal consistently, you'll pay the price. And there's a market out there with supply and demand that corrects for all of that. Hopefully this made sense to you guys today. If you've got questions, reach out to our friends over at DVC Resale Market. If one of these buyer situations kind of identifies with you, I'm going to create a live show. My intent is to find a real buyer that somewhat matches up with one of these 6 deals and then do a shopping episode where we come back in and evaluate contracts, and we might even put some offers in if you guys are really serious in the shopping part. And we'll have to come back in and edit the episode so that we can get the seller's comments on this or what they tell back to the resale agent on the bids. But if you're interested in this, drop me a note at mydvcpoints@gmail.com. I'd love to work you in with the show and help you do a little shopping and research. The only thing that I ask is that you're halfway serious about this and you're really seriously looking into it. You don't have to buy anything, but I do want to know that you're like seriously considering this so that we can create a show and kind of help you and show this mindset to other people and start to come back in and realize that we are a neighborhood of communities. We are neighbors, and our neighbors don't always think the same way we do, but that's okay. So that puts this episode in the books, guys. Thank you for tuning into this show. Huge shout out of sponsors to our friends over at DVC Resale Market, where they are the world's leader in DVC resales. They are the 500-pound gorilla. They have more contracts. They have the best website, the best educational site that's out there for buying DVC. And then once you've bought DVC, if you want to rent some of those points and put cash in your pocket, our friends at DVC Rental Store would be glad to match you up with a renter and put some cash into your pocket for these excess points. And if you're looking for contracts and in your value systems, financing one of these makes sense, Monera Financial has your back there. I keep doing ad reads for them because Not everybody realizes that there's banks out there that specialize in financing DVC. And that's the only thing that Monera Financial does, is DVC loans and DVC contracts. Huge shout out of thanks to our Patreons as well. Your guys' continued support has really helped me out this last month when StreamYard renewed and a bunch of website stuff renewed. And I looked down and all of a sudden I've got hundreds of dollars of expenses that I went, And then luckily, some new Patreons signed up and selected the annual option. I was able to pay all the bills and not have any worries and no thoughts on it whatsoever. So huge shout out thanks to our Patreons as well. And if our content is adding value to your life, consider joining us on Patreon. Plans start as little as $7.50 a month with annual pay options with a little bit of a discount there. As always, hopefully you learned something in today's episode that'll help you go out there and plan something magical for your family.
Ladies and gentlemen, please watch your head and step as you exit, and take small children by the hand.
Aw, chill up, Dad. You know I'll come back. What DVC?
My DVC Points is an unofficial Disney-inspired podcast created by fans of Disney Vacation Club. The thoughts expressed in this podcast are personal opinions and personal experiences. My DVC Points is not affiliated with Disney Vacation Club, the Walt Disney Companies, or any subsidiaries. We encourage listeners to contact their DVC guide or member services for official DVC policies.